So you have a defined benefit pension plan at work which promises you a set amount of retirement benefits once you retire. And every year they send you this annual statement, and on there it shows you the amount of retirement income you may get once you hit the retirement age. And you're looking at this number and think to yourself, now surely I don't need that much retirement income at retirement. I live a pretty simple life. So what if I actually take a much earlier retirement, or maybe take a sabbatical and come back and work again? And at worst, I might just get hit with a little bit of penalty, right? But actually at most times, you would be incorrect. Taking even a little bit of an earlier retirement within a defined benefit plan can sometimes cost you thousands of dollars per month, and it might be the difference maker between you can retire comfortably or not. So for this week, I want to take a real client's example, the husband and wife, they each have a different pension plan, and walk you guys through. And in there, you will be able to learn how does basic pension plan work, how is penalty calculated in some pension plan, what is the critical point or threshold that you might need to watch out for that can really affect your retirement, and lastly, how you can find out all these infos by yourself. Alright, so if you haven't already, make sure you help me comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. This is the best way to help this channel. And also, if you want more info, ask questions, etc., join my private Facebook group, which I have a link in the description below. Okay, so start off, let's give you some background on this client. They're a husband and wife, both working for federal government. The wife has joined the pension plan 2012, while the husband joined 2016. During planning, they have sent me their statement, which shows me how many pension credits they already have accumulated. They both making $110,000 gross. Now, they plan to keep working their job until 2034, and where they will take a 5-year sabbatical and then come back in 2038. This is something that's allowed within the federal government, and they also said they have the option to buy back those 5 years of pensionable service. This is something they have confirmed with their department. And then once they're back, they might work 1 extra year until maybe 2039 or end of 2038 and then retire. As part of our planning, they wanted to see the retirement projections, just some rough number to see if that is doable or if there's anything they're missing. Now, obviously, one of the biggest things to look at is their pension plan. So let's dive into this. And the first thing I think everyone needs to know is how does your own pension plan, the retirement income, is calculated. Generally, in Canada, there are 3 different types of calculation that you can have within your pension plan, so you have to check which one you have. We're going to start with the first 2 first, which is basically take some sort of income average you have times the years of pensionable service you have accumulated times a percentage. The first 2 ways of calculation mainly is focusing on different types of average income you might be using. One of the way is using a career average of your income. The second way is using the highest 5 years or the final 5 years of your average income. Pensionable services are the amount of pension credits you have accumulated by staying within this plan, contributing to it, working with the company. Every year you work full-time, you will get 1 full credit. You are usually capped out at 35 years. And finally, for the percentage, the usual amount will be just 2%, but there are some organizations, for example, this client's work, which is with the federal government, it's a tier system of 1.375 for the first tier and then 2% for the rest of it. And the third option of calculating pension benefit is sometimes what we call flat benefit, which is there's no percentage. You're basically given X amount of retirement income per month times the years you're working for them. So for example, it could be $200 per month and you work 25 years. So now it will be $5,000 per month of retirement income. Now, typically a flat benefit usually is not that good because it doesn't scale with your income as you make more. And also, typically it is the lowest out of the 3 calculation.
That sucks.
So you have to check which one of the 3 you have. Now, for this video's purpose, I'm going to use the current income, 110,000, times estimated pensionable service by the time they retire, assuming all the buyback happens, times the tier percentage system they have. This is gonna give them a rough estimation of retirement income they might get today using today's dollar. In actual planning, what we will do is apply a percentage of the wage growth and also the growth of YMPE, which is used to figure out the tier system. Will give them a more accurate number of what they might get at retirement. This might be better because then we can stack that against other things like the growth of CPP, OAS, their RRSP, and also against the growth of their daily expense after inflation, which will give us a much better picture of how does inflation potentially affect all these different sources of income. But if you're doing it yourself, you don't need to make it so complicated. I think that's something left for the planners to do. For DIY, you can just use today's income and then use everything in today's dollar for you to have a better sense of where you might be. The only problem here is the flat benefit, because you may actually need to apply inflation to your expense to give you a better idea on how does that stack up maybe 20, 30 years down the road. Also, as a reminder, pay attention if you have something called the bridge benefit when calculating your pension income. Bridge benefit is something that will start at the moment you retire until you're 65, and then it will drop off. It's meant to replace your CPP until it kicks in. So if you have something like this, take a look within your plan. This is usually a separate calculation. For example, my client here working with the federal government will have a bridge benefit. So for our real planning session, we will be calculating that to get a rough idea. But for here, this video, we're not going to be doing this because it's not important. For today's purpose, we want to focus more on the next step, which is the penalty. This is usually the most confusing part, because when I ask clients or when they talk about a little bit of an earlier retirement, they might get a couple % off as a penalty, and that might be it, which most cases is actually not true. The penalty can sometimes be much harsher than what they think it is. So I'm going to first talk about generally in most pension plan, what kind of calculation there is. Now, again, you have to look inside your plan to make sure or to find out what is your actual penalty calculation. But generally, there are two calculations they will do. First one is they will look at something called the unreduced retirement age. Usually the 60 to 65, very easy to understand. If you hit that age, no penalty. But if we just rely on this calculation, it's actually not very fair. Because if you think about it, if I'm a 30-year-old that has been working for the company for many, many years, I won't get the full pension until I work all the way until 65, whereas another coworker entering at 50 just has to work maybe 10 or 15 years and they can get the full unreduced pension already. That's kind of unfair. And to combat this, most companies' pension plan will actually have something called a qualifying factor, QF. So a QF usually is 85 or 90, and once you hit that number, you can still retire without reducing your benefit. To get your QF, simply take your current age plus the number of pensionable service you have. Say I'm 30 years old today and I work for the company inside this pension plan for 10 years already. My current QF would be 40. And say I am trying to hit 85. So how many years I have to work until I hit that number? Well, all you have to do is take 85 minus 40 divided by 2. Which comes out to be 22.5. This means that if I work another 22.5 years when I'm 52 and a half, I will be able to take my benefit retire without any reduction.
Wow.
Now, however, for my clients here within the federal government plan, they do not have the QF calculation. Instead, they have something that's more unique, and it depends on if they have 25 years within the plan or not. For federal workers, you are actually split into two groups of plan. You are either in group 1, which is someone that have joined before December 31st of 2012, or you're now in the group 2, which is everyone after that. So for this couple, even though they're both federal workers, they are in different group because the wife has joined in 2012 and the husband joined 2016. First, looking at the wife, because she is in group 1, her calculation is going to look at two different formulas. Formula 1 is if she has less than 25 years of pensionable service by the time she retires, she is going to get a 5% reduction every year she is under 60. So if she is sticking to her plan and she's retiring at 52, then she is going to get hit with a 40% reduction if she's using Formula 1. However, because she has more than 25 years of pensionable service by the time she retires, she is also looking at Formula 2, which is going to be the greater of 5% per year under 55, so she will be 52 by then, which is going to be 15% penalty, or 5% every year she's under 30 years of pensionable service. She will be just over 30 years, so it'll be 0% here. We're taking the greater of the two, so it'll be 15%. So Formula 1 says 40% reduction, Formula 2 says 15% reduction. We are going to take the lower one here, which will be 15% for her. So in her example, the original calculation that we just have, we will take 15% off, and that will be her estimated lifetime retirement income. So 15% discount doesn't seem too bad. Now, however, for the husband side, it's not so generous. Because he's placed in group 2, he's facing a totally different calculation. For Formula 1, which is people under 25 years of pensionable service, if he is going to retire at 55, which is the earliest pension payout, it's going to be 5% reduction per year. That's from 65. So in total, it'll be a 50% reduction. Now, also, this is very important because it says if he terminates his employment before 55, regardless how many pensionable service years he has, we are still going to be using Formula 1. So that's something to keep in mind. For Formula 2, this is if he has over 25 years of services, it's going to be a greater of 5% per year. That's under 60. So for him, it will be a 25% reduction because he starts at 55. Or it's 5% every year less than 30 years of pensionable service, whichever is greater. Now, because in his original plan of retiring at 2038 or 39, he's going to be either 52 or 53. He is under 55. If he really does that, then he is going to face the 50% reduction, and this will bring his calculation in previously to this. Now, for the husband, we can see here that it really doesn't make sense for him to stop employment at 52 or 53 and just retire because he will be facing that 50% reduction. Instead, if he maintains any sort of employment with the federal government, even on a part-time basis, just so he can bring himself all the way until 55 and then terminates, and likely he'll be facing a 25% reduction instead, which is a lot less than the 50%. Also, since they may be buying back their 5-year sabbaticals pension years, I would argue it is much more important to buy husbands first because he won't be hitting 25 years if he doesn't and will be forced to use Formula 1. And for you, it will be the same thing. From part 2, figuring out your penalty and how every formula is calculated, you need to decide for yourself what is the critical threshold, either the years you have to work or the age you're supposed to retire, and not before that, because it might mean a complete different set of reduction. It might also break your retirement plan. Now, there are other things you want to consider as well. For example, in some pension plan, for example, RCMP, I know that you, after working a certain amount of years with the RCMP, you will no longer get the choice to take the lump sum as a retirement offer. You will be forced to stay inside the pension plan and take that retirement income every month. So if taking a lump sum is also something you want to consider, you again have to decide. Maybe you have to retire at a certain age or at least leave the force, so you have that option to take your lump sum retirement saving. Now, finally, let's talk about how you can find out all these info for yourself. Number one, I would say is don't just rely on your pension statement for your DB plan. Most of the time, that pension statement really is inaccurate unless you're very close to retirement, and it's more to serve, or it only is here assuming that you always work your same job, earning the same income all the way until your retirement. Anything outside of that, it really can't tell you too much. So the first resource you can rely on is actually go back to find your pension booklet and then read through it. Go through the pension calculation I just said, go through the penalty calculation I just said, and then any other caveats or benefits by terminating your employment a little bit too early. Find out all that throughout that booklet. Now, if you don't want to read, or these things are too confusing for you, another great source of information is just contact your pension department or HR and tell them exactly what kind of plan you may have in mind. For example, maybe taking a couple of years off for mat leave and maybe or may not be buying back. You may be taking a little bit of early retirement. Lay out the plan for them and then ask them, hey, if this is how things play out, what is the calculation looking like? Most of the time, they will be able to just tell you this is how it will affect you before and after the change, so then you can make a better decision. And finally, if you really, don't have the first two, it's not good enough for you, then I guess the last one is you could work with a planner. This is our job. We will be sitting down with you, going through the pension booklet together, and then really educating you on how these things work for you. Alright, so that's everything for this week's video. Hopefully these info help you better understand your pension plan and give you some more idea on what to look for and how to make sure it aligns with your own retirement projection. Next one I want to hear from you is, for your DB plan, do you have any caveat or any surprises that you found out only after really thoroughly reading through your booklet or talking to HR? Let me know in the comment down below. If you like these kind of videos, I do upload them every 2 weeks. Next week, I'll be hopping over to my Chinese channel and talking about some topics in Chinese. So if you understand Chinese, you want to get a little bit more, you can visit that channel as well. I've linked it below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you help me comment, like, and subscribe to this channel. Click the bell button to get all the notifications in the future. This is Jacky. I hope you found this interesting. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye!